story is about a frog, but not just any ordinary frog. Our frog is in a sense very special and different from all other frogs. Not many people have had the privilege of actually seeing one of these big little fellows. To be honest, most of us will go through life's journey without even knowing they exist. These creatures are known as Pixicephalus adspersus, or the giant bullfrog, the second largest frog on the African continent. But we call them. The animals of Africa know the signs of a slumbering drought. This elephant bull is hungry and despondent. He's irritated and behaves in such a way. The water level of this waterhole drops alarmingly fast, and he decided to protect what he believes is his. And so the days pass on. Days and months will pass before the first signs of rain. The swamps, once frequented by an abundance of wild animals, has become dry clay pans. And then the rain pours down. The sluices of heaven are opened in full force as precious torrents of life-giving rain vanquish the drought. Dry riverbeds and dusty footpaths become channels of water. The dry land responds rapidly and is transformed into a kaleidoscope of brilliant colors. This joyous response has become one of the most sought-after phenomena on the planet. Once deserted, dried-up waterholes have become hives of activity, attracting all kinds of living creatures. As we sit down to observe all the activities around one of the swamps, we hear a whoop-whoop sound, which reminds us of the bellowing sound of cattle. Listen. Upon closer observation, we are rewarded with what we've come for. This swamp is home to the little big monsters, the giant bullfrog of Africa. He calls again, and then starts to search for a female to mate with. Suddenly the bullfrog realizes that he's not alone. He finds himself in the territory of another bullfrog. They size each other up cautiously, and then instinct takes over. African people will come on days like these in order to hunt bullfrogs and collect them for the pot. Being quite bulky, these frogs have become a rare delicacy to some of the inhabitants. Mankind is known as the biggest predator of all, and due to excessive hunting and the destruction of their habitat, the numbers of giant bullfrogs have dropped alarmingly. The giant bullfrog is now listed as near threatened by the World Conservation Union. Male bullfrogs have been known to measure up to 24 centimeters or 9.5 inches in size and weigh close to 2 kilograms or 4 pounds. They are about twice the size of their female counterparts, which is unusual because the female frog is normally the larger of the two. Females will swim towards the dominant male until they're about 3 meters away, and then they will dive to swim the last stretch underwater. The somewhat smaller females will gather around the dominant male, pushing and trying to position themselves in front of the male. When a female has been chosen, the male will sit upon her, literally covering her completely. This position is known as amplexus, during which he clasps the female from above. Giant bullfrogs raise their vents above the surface of the water during the oviposition, in other words, while the eggs are being laid. Fertilization is external and takes place before the eggs get in contact with the water. The male will shed sperm onto the eggs as they emerge from the female. Bullfrogs start life as eggs, which are also called spawn, which hatch into tadpoles after 2 days. At first they are fish-like animals with external gills and a long swimming tail, but no limbs. Tadpoles are herbivores. Their main activities are to eat and grow. Tadpoles will always bundle together and move around in a tight school. Safety in numbers will be their survival strategy for days to come. Bullfrogs are some of the best parents in the animal kingdom. The tadpoles will always be found close to the large territorial male. However, Mother Nature herself poses the biggest threat for the school of tadpoles at this stage. The water level of the swamp is dropping alarmingly fast. The tadpoles become trapped in a small part of the swamp, with little water to see them through to adulthood. Instinct leads the male bullfrog to dig a channel to enable his offspring to swim to the large expanses of water. Most of the tadpoles survived this ordeal, but sadly some of them were trapped in the drying pool, facing a long, protracted death. Hunger and thirst has driven a resident suricate to the swamp. One can imagine his surprise when he comes across the exhausted male bullfrog. It's the first time ever he encounters such a feast of a meal. Suricates are constantly digging and eating anything that they can find. This one's keen sense of smell leads him to the jackpot. Hundreds of tadpoles wriggle in a nearly dried up puddle. For him, this is a feast. Easy meals like this don't present themselves every day. With sharp nails shaped for digging, he scrapes the tadpoles closer together and eats them one by one. Meanwhile, the entire ordeal of the tadpoles is being witnessed by the weary dominant bullfrog. The first change taking place during metamorphosis is the disappearance of the external gills and the development of internal gills that will still be supplanted by lungs later on in the process. The hind legs start to develop, then the front legs. At this stage, the little bullfrogs will have developed well enough to leave the water. From now on, they will stay mainly in the shallow edges of the swamp, where they easily blend in with their surroundings. After a few more days, they will lose their tails and become little big monsters. Life for the giant bullfrog, however, is never completely free of danger. Larger animals such as elephants, rhino, and buffalo frequently visit the swamps. Not only do they quench their thirst, causing the water level to drop, They also spend a lot of time wallowing in the mud, with devastating consequences for the little bullfrogs. The problem is, however, that by wallowing in the mud, these animals also become predators to the tadpoles and juvenile frogs. It often happens that large quantities of tadpoles or juveniles are crushed to death or suffocate in the clay during a mud bath. It is really sad, considering that they have escaped the ordeal of a drying swamp simply to die at the onset of a new phase in their lives. As usual, it does not take long for the scavengers to move in. Of the thousands and thousands of bullfrog eggs that were incubated originally, it will only be a few who survive and develop into big little monsters, if any. The thirst of the elephant is quenched, and the rhinos are replete with the bounties the rain has brought, while the buffalo carries on with his devastating task. The bullfrog is satisfied, as his mission has been accomplished. For now, the dominant male has played his part in the circle of life the way nature intended. With a scrubbing motion, he will bury himself in the mud with all the others. Provided he survives the elements of nature and the onslaught of human beings, the giant bullfrog can reach an age of almost 45 years. But what is left? We were privileged to witness nature in action, up close and personal. We've learnt that the giant bullfrog is an integral part of a diverse, though complex, ecosystem. It is our duty to protect them. If we protect their habitat, thus helping the tadpoles to survive, we will always have swamp monsters lurking in the midst of the waters of the swamps. If we fail in our duty, however, these little monsters of the swamps will just become another legend, told by African generations to come. The giant bullfrog is already listed as near threatened. So don't let the African sun set forever on our little monsters of the swamps.